So this week, hopefully it's our final week on the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay.
What we're going to talk about is, where is it? That's a big question. So people have been looking for the Ark of the Covenant for like the last 2,500 years. And biblical archaeologists, that's their quest. If they could find that, well, even regular archaeologists, anyone could find that. It's like the treasure. So I'm going to tell you some possibilities, and you need to know nobody knows where it is. So what I'm telling you are theories and what people say they have discovered. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about when Nebuchadnezzar took those treasures to Babylon. It's evident that he did not have the ark. And I want to read you a prophecy that Jeremiah gave to Israel, to Judah. It says, concerning the residue of the vessels that remain in this city. This is Jeremiah 27, and I'm going to read verse 22. They shall be carried to Babylon, and there they shall be until the day that I, talking about the Lord, visit them, saith the Lord. Then I will bring them up and restore them to their place. So all the vessels that were stolen are coming back. And that happens in Ezra 1:7. Also Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and had put them in his house of the gods. Even those did Cyrus the king of Persia bring forth by the hand of Mithridath the treasurer, and numbered them unto Sheshbazzar the prince of Judah. So what he ends up doing is giving them back. So God prophesied they'd all come back. They all came back. God keeps his word 100% of the time. But the thing is, the ark is never mentioned. So it's obvious the ark wasn't there when Babylon captured the treasures that they got. It's clear that the ark wasn't there because it's never mentioned again. It is mentioned once in the New Testament, and that is in Revelation. I want to kind of get this one. Revelation 11:19, and this is talking about what Jesus Christ is revealing to the Apostle John. And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in the temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Okay, so some people might say, well, it's in heaven. He just said it was in heaven. Not quite so fast. Now I'm going to tell you what it says in Hebrews 8:5. And this is talking about when God gave Moses the directions for building the tabernacle and building all the furniture. He said, do it exactly as I say, and this is why. Hebrews 8:5. These things who serve as a copy and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle, see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern shown unto thee in the mount. So God was telling him, whatever he's making, all the articles, the furniture, the tabernacle itself, it was all a replica of what was in heaven. So when he saw that in heaven, that's the heavenly ark. We're talking about the earthly ark. And where I'm going to start, okay, the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar was a French military order. They were part of the Roman Catholic faith, and they were sent in the 12th and 13th century. They were sent to the Holy Land, and their headquarters was on the Temple Mount. And why they were sent there was to protect and defend pilgrims coming to the Holy Land. But think about it. They had 200 years to dig. There's tunnels and chambers under there. 200 years to try to uncover any treasures that might have been hidden before the captivity. So what I'm going to tell you is the 4 theories of where they may have taken the ark if they found it. Number 1, this is according to Graham Phillips. that they hid it in central England, in the countryside.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, see, they would have a boat, so they were movable. Theory 2, it was taken to the Vatican. Hey, they were Roman Catholic. Theory 3, it was hid in a rebuilt French cathedral. Well, they were French, so that makes sense. Here's the 4th one that doesn't make as much sense. It was taken to Oak Island. Because there's a television show that the History Channel puts on, The Curse of Oak Island, and they've been searching for this treasure, this lost treasure, for so many years, and they can't find it.
12 years now.
Right, and they don't find it. So now it's going to be the Ark of the Covenant. I think it's just to keep the show going.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, then my next example is in 1868 to 1870. Queen Victoria commissioned Sir Charles Warren, an officer of the British Royal Engineers, to go to Palestine and Jerusalem and the Temple Mount and to do surveys and excavations. He was like the first European archaeologist to ever go over there and explore. And he excavated and he made surveys that have been used later now that you can't get into that area. However, he did not find the Ark. Then we have Hitler, and especially Heinrich Himmler. They were heavily into the occult. You're kidding.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, duh. But anyway, they were searching for these holy treasures. They searched for the Holy Grail, which is the cup that Jesus used at the Last Supper, the Ark of the Covenant, the Spear of Destiny, which is supposedly the spear that pierced Jesus' side. And they say that they found part of that. Whether they did or not, it's not really known exactly, because other people say they have other parts of it. And they also searched for the crown of thorns. And what they thought was that they could get supernatural powers by having these objects. That was their whole mindset in doing that. Now we're going to go all the way back to King Solomon. And from King Solomon to Zedekiah, there were after King Solomon, there were 19 kings. So you think about it, there was all this time that somebody could have done something with the ark. But what if Solomon did? Well, what happened was, and this is about 10 BC, the Queen of Sheba came to see King Solomon because of his great knowledge and wisdom. Well, she stayed for a time, and on her way back, she discovered she was pregnant. That's no surprise. Well, anyway, when she gets back, she has a son, and his name is Menelik. And when he's 20, he goes to visit his father. He goes to visit King Solomon. And King Solomon had given the Queen of Sheba his ring. So he comes back with a ring, so Solomon knows for sure that this is his son. Now you've got a royal son. He ends up going back to Ethiopia, but King Solomon sends back some of the firstborn of Judah, the noblemen, some of the priesthood. He sends these people back with him, and nobody knows exactly who got the ark, if it was a priest, or even if Solomon, who his heart was completely turned against God, this wouldn't have meant much to him. Anyway, the ark ends up going with Menelik, and it ends up in Ethiopia. So, the story of this comes from a documented writing. It's the national epic of Ethiopia, and it's called the Kebra Nagast, which means the glory of the kings, because they believe they have the royal line there. And they always have up until in the 20th century when Haile Selassie died. He was part of that royal dynasty, according to them. So, now it's housed in St. Mary's Church of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now, because of wars, that actually ends up being Eritrea. But all of the Ethiopian Orthodox Christians believe that it's there. They've always believed that it's there. there was someone in their own history who saw it at one point in time, but it's always been guarded by a monk. When he dies, the next monk takes it. So it's always been guarded, and nobody's allowed to see it. So you don't know if it's there or not. Now we're going to go to Jeremiah. So Jeremiah was a prophet who prophesied that they were going to be captured. So now the theory is that Jeremiah hid that before Nebuchadnezzar had a chance to take the vessels. Then it says in Jeremiah 43:6, I'll just tell you what it says. That Jeremiah, all the poor people were left, and some other people too. But Jeremiah and men, women, and children, and the king's daughters. See, they didn't know these girls were the king's daughters.
Okay.
And Baruch, who was his scribe. They all end up going to Egypt. It was proposed that he took the ark with him down to Egypt and these daughters. So the theory is he takes a ship from there with the 3 royal daughters and the Ark of the Covenant and his scribe Baruch. And they go to Ireland. And he sets up these royal daughters in different countries and takes one to Ireland. Her name is Teotephi. And supposedly the ark is buried under her tomb. But this is what's interesting, that gives credence not to the whole story, but to him being in Ireland. Because it is said there's a spot in Ireland that is his tomb. It's well known that that is the tomb of Jeremiah. Now, I'm not saying he's actually in that tomb, but you would never say his tomb was there if he had never been there. So I think it's clear he had been there. And then when you think of the name Jeremiah, that's an Irish name, right? Okay, now, it could still be in Jerusalem. And Rabbi Harry Moskoff, he's a noted investigative archaeologist, a film producer and a writer. He wrote the Ark Report. He spent 2 decades researching what he could. And he used, remember when I told you that Warren, the guy that Queen Victoria had sent, that he did surveys? He used his surveys. And so he believes that it's under the Temple Mount, but behind a huge rock that weighs 570 tons. Now, that would make it clear that the Knights Templar wouldn't be able to get at that because it's too heavy. So they did scientific studies, and they discovered that there is a chamber behind there, but they can't prove that the Ark of the Covenant is there. And now, because of political tensions, no one can even put a shovel in that area. That's impossible these days. So the first temple, Solomon's temple, Babylon destroyed it in 587. Then the second temple, which Jesus prophesied that there wouldn't be one stone left upon the other. The Romans took that in 70 AD. And the reason why there wasn't one stone on the other, tell you why. Because when they burned it, all the gold went in between the rocks. So they had to take every stone apart to get that gold. So Christ's prophecy came true that there would not be one stone left upon the other. But the third temple, that's what we're getting to right now. I'm going to kind of end with this. The third temple is going to be built during the tribulation. And I'm going to end with this passage, and this is 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. And it's speaking about the Antichrist. It says, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. How can he sit in the temple? There aren't any chairs. Temple has no chairs. That's possible, but he's showing himself to be God. Where did God appear? Above the Ark of the Covenant.
That's right.
That's where he's going to be sitting. Because it says right here, so that he is as God sitteth in the temple. As God sitteth in the temple. That's where God showed himself. And this Ark of the Covenant is going to be hid until God wants it revealed. And in my opinion, that will be in the third temple. And that's where the Antichrist will show that he is God. And that is what is called in Matthew and Daniel the abomination of desolation. Okay.